away from my friends, but he was really nice. A friend at the time really fed me a lot of drinks. He said, "Why don't we go outside?" He asked if I wanted to go upstairs. We went upstairs. And he invited me to go into a room.
Took me downstairs to their basement.
He pinned me against the wall and took off my clothes and assaulted me.
That's when they both assaulted me.
I was assaulted by at least 2 members of their fraternity.
It's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get accurate information about whether or not there have been sexual assaults in a particular fraternity house. What you find in many circumstances is that universities have created contractual relationships with fraternities that involve them promoting the fraternities, but not then also disclosing the risks that they've had with those fraternities.
On the Johns Hopkins University campus today, following allegations of a gang rape at an off-campus fraternity, students say the university failed to tell students about the investigation.
Problem after problem after problem for the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity at UNM. And that was before a new claim of rape.
Digging for answers after the same Yale frat house has had a whole bunch of problems.
I'm telling you, almost every time there's a rape in a fraternity chapter, there's someone at the university, certainly the person who's in the Office of Greek Residence Life, who's paid for by the university, he or she knew that that chapter was likely to have a rape sometime. But they won't tell the young women. Or if they do, there's hell to pay for these college presidents. Happened at Wesleyan. There was a problem fraternity, Beta Theta Pi. The university sent a letter in the spring to all students and all parents. The fraternity went ballistic. The parents of the fraternity brothers went ballistic, and the new class of freshman women came in, and they didn't send the warning to the new class of freshman women. It was Halloween weekend before a girl was violently raped upstairs.
Frat house at Wesleyan University is facing a lawsuit by a student who claims she was raped, and this isn't the first time that frat has come under fire.
After that rape, a young woman shows up in an emergency room in Middletown, Connecticut. I was assaulted at Beta Theta Pi. It's, to me, outrageous the extent that our colleges and universities are complicit in the sexual assaults of young women at these fraternity houses.
So why don't the schools just disassociate themselves from the fraternities and kick them off campus?
Right. Well, the colleges and universities have much more to gain from the fraternities than the fraternities have to gain from the colleges and universities. 1 out of every 8 college students living on campus lives in Greek housing. That's a tremendous amount of housing stock the colleges don't have to pay for, don't have to supervise. You also have to remember, you tie alumni to your campus in a very powerful way when you have a fraternity system. Alumni giving is a massive part of your annual giving. A large part of that is fraternity membership. It's a deeply powerful industry. You start tracing back and you find out they're pouring money into political campaigns, and they're hugely overrepresented. There's no college or university or type of college or university that's more represented within Congress than the fraternity system itself is. So people are very loath to get involved and very loath to come up against the fraternity system.
It's not a coincidence that you can fly to Boston and fly to California and hear the same stories.
We started visiting other campuses. We felt that if we created a model for how to file a Title IX complaint, others would do it.
Sunshine had those few Saturdays, left us in a song, white as
These are 2 fraternities where a student was sexually assaulted.
It was going there and being walked to the fraternities and being walked to where their assaults had happened. Details that were critical for every single case.
Weird, right?
So for the email, I'm just going to give you a call.
So we move forward with this model, saying here's a complaint, here's how this process works.
On my 21st birthday, I was helping students at Swarthmore file a Title IX complaint.
What if our work ends in despair? What if the
think I went to Columbia twice before they filed, just sat down with a group of students and talked them through how to file a complaint.
If people are going to talk publicly, then it needs to be about their treatment here at Columbia.
Focus on Columbia.
We don't have lawyers. You have 18, 19-year-old students who are standing up to their institutions.
We are at Amherst and we found a place to stay. Hi, Jay. Where we're sleeping tonight?
I don't know, the least terrifying parking lot.
And we are changing and doing stuff in a Wendy's bathroom. Yay!
But there is only forward, no other way. Tomorrow's your hope at the end of the day.
I found politicizing my own experience to be actually the most helpful step.
It's really exciting to actually get to meet the other activists.
I felt so cared for until I actually needed Yale, at which point I became this administrative matter.
The administration kept telling us to take our foot off the pedal.
What if my hard work ends in despair? What if the road won't take me there? Oh, I wish for once could take
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Annie.
Hi, Rachel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I just decided to take some time off, I moved here with my sister, and I've been a nanny, and it's the most amazing thing. And I'm seeing the two little girls that I nanny for. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is I never want them to ever have to deal with something like this.
So it's really late, and we have a survivor who's cutting, and she doesn't know if she can stop.
The worst part for me has been having to relive the experience of everybody else. This vicarious trauma that I couldn't process anymore.
It's just not fair. It's really not fair.
But it's the only way I get up in the morning. I would have given anything to have had someone who believed me, someone who supported me.
Hi. Hi, I'm Andrea.
I'm Abby.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to
Abby.
meet you.
Hi, Andrea. Nice to meet you.
I was raped by a basketball player at the University of Tulsa. And I felt like because he was an athlete, everyone was acting like he's worth more than I am because he's an athlete.
And that's what happens over and over and over again. It's you need to reread your mission statement. Are you here to play sports, or are you here to educate and protect your students?
An alleged sexual assault case involving 3 basketball players.
4 former Vanderbilt University football players are charged with rape.
Derek Washington already had a documented history of violence against women at Missouri.
It was former Michigan kicker Brendan Gibbons involved in the alleged sexual assault of a woman back in 2009.
Well, this is the 5th student athlete to be accused of sexual assault on campus.
I really do believe the vast majority of student athletes are worthy of our admiration. I think they're mostly, for the most part, a lot of good people out there who are trying to do the right thing. But when you have 18 to 22-year-old kids who are celebrities, it creates a toxic environment for a lot of bad behavior. When they walk across campus, it's not like any other student walking across campus. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry that wraps around these young men. And if you don't think that they're part of a culture of entitlement, just look at the fanfare that's around college football.
I grew up in Zephyr Hills, Florida. It's a small town, so everybody does know everybody. I've lived there my entire life. I did very well in high school. I graduated with honors. I took a lot of AP and honors classes. When I was younger, a family friend of ours gave me a Florida State cheerleading uniform and came with pom-poms.
She was the best child any father could have. She was fabulous. Never any problems, always had a great smile, just a joy to be around. And she kept saying she was going to FSU, going to FSU. And then when she first got there, I knew she made the right choice.
My first semester was it was a lot of science classes. I was in 6 classes. I wanted to go to med school. I didn't go out a lot just because I was in a lot of classes. So it was the week before finals, and we drove to Potbelly's, and we were just hanging out. This guy started following me around, and I said to him, I was like, what, stop, stop following us. And a man standing at the bar saw that I was uncomfortable with this guy following me, and so he kind of grabbed me and was like, this is my girlfriend, leave her alone. And I was like, thank you. The guy left, and I was just like, thank you. And he's like, do you want to take a shot? And I said, sure. So I turned around to make sure that this guy was gone, and when I turned back around, he handed me a shot. I'm fairly certain that there was something in that drink. As a college student, I had been drunk before, and I had not drank nearly enough to become drunk and incompetent that night. I remember being in a cab, and there were 3 guys in the cab also. Anyone you ask would tell you, I never would go home with a guy, period, and especially not 3 people that I didn't know. I remember specific things after that. I was in an apartment, and this guy was sexually assaulting me. He was raping me. He was on top of me, and I couldn't really breathe that much, but I was saying, please stop. I remember his roommate or whoever this other guy was came in, and he was saying, dude, stop. What are you doing? She's telling you to stop. Since his door to the bedroom wouldn't lock, he picked me up and he carried me into the bathroom. He said, the door will lock in here. He put me on the tile bathroom floor. I was trying to push him off and kick him off, but he was just too big. And I said, please stop, multiple times, and I said no. Eventually he pushed his hand over my face and pushed my face into the floor. And he just continued to rape me. He finished, and then he put my clothes back on, and he said, you can leave now. And then he's like, I'll take you home on my scooter. I mean, okay, I had no idea where I was. I didn't know how else I was supposed to get home. I wanted to get out of there. This was the worst feeling because I didn't want to hold on to him, but I was afraid that I was going to fall off of the scooter. He dropped me off at the intersection where I told him because I didn't want him to know where I lived. I didn't know really what I was supposed to do. I tweeted, someone help me. My friend responded and she was like, well, tell me what happened. We decided that we need to call the police.
You said she was raped?
Yeah.
Okay, so she did not know the person?
No.
The Florida State University police took me in the back of a police car to the hospital. I got all of the blood work and the rape kit and everything. They were watching bruises appear as I was laying in the hospital bed.
We got a call about 3 a.m. We grabbed some stuff and we jumped in the car and started heading to FSU as quick as we could. She was laying in the hospital bed and we each went to one side and we just held her, and all 3 of us laid there, sat there and cried.
That's when investigator Angulo came in. I told him kind of everything.
I'm very pro law enforcement, and Tallahassee PD was there, and we assumed they were taking care of things.